everybody had a chance to go over the minutes? So I'll take a motion to approve or deny.
Motion to accept.
Motion by JD,
Second.
second by Josh. All those in favor? Motion passes. 805 North Indiana Street.
Those of you who were here for the last meeting, I'm back. I'm John Larrison from Holloway Engineering, here on behalf of Bryant and Joni Hopwood. They're the owners of the property at 805 North Indiana Street. This is a very unusual lot. It's right in the middle of town. It's 2.1 acres in size. The property is lies between Highland Meadows and all of the school structures. It's also sandwiched between 4 double units on the south, and I want to call your attention to those. Bryant and Joni's lot is in blue, rectangle, on your aerial photo, and the doubles south of Mr. and Mrs. Hopwood are actually zoned incorrectly. Those are being shown as R1. There are 2 double units there on those lots. So they're sandwiched between those doubles. The Nazarene Church on the north. A little further north, you can see there's a couple of the R2 units on Williams Drive. We're here tonight to request a rezone from R1 to R2. I know that I probably sound a little bit like a broken record if you were at the last meeting, but we've got 2.1 acres right in the middle of town. We've got sanitary sewers, water, police, fire, everything's right there. 2.1 acres, and there's only one house on it. And, you know, as you can see, that is extremely unusual. And sooner or later, somebody's coming in to make further use of the property. And that's why we're here tonight. We're here, again, to rezone the property from R1 to R2. I'd like to tell you that your R2 zoning standard is 10,000 square feet minimum per unit. Actually per double unit, so 10,000 square feet. We have 9 times that much property. 9 times. It's more than 91,000 square feet of area there. So, you know, it's not going to just continue to be mowed forever and ever. It really is time to do something with it. The plan isn't to go in and put 9 doubles in any way, shape, or form. We would pursue, with zoning acceptance, we would pursue a minor plat that allows us to divide it into 4 parcels. So the Hopwoods have absolutely no desire to build a public street. So any more than 4 lots would require a 50-foot wide public roadway, curbs, gutters, you know, very expensive development. But that is our plan going forward. Just to let you know that we're starting with zoning, and then we would come in sometime over the next year or 2 probably and file for a minor plat. Want to just very quickly, in the interest of time, just very quickly go through, as I leave our office at Holloway Engineering and I drive north on Indiana Street. We have the doubles on the south side of Lincoln Lane, Marty Whitty's doubles. We have the Bible apartment building there on Morgan Street. We have the dentist's office across the street from our shop, the computer store. We have the orthodontist right up the road, the Church of Christ, all of the school facilities and the football field and the football lot. We have the 2 sets of doubles just south of Mr. Hopwood. We have the Nazarene Church just north of Mr. Hopwood. We have the 2 doubles on the south side of Williams Road. We have Pollard Courts doubles, probably 6 or 8 doubles back there. We have the church in Mission, St. Thomas More Church, and then we have Martin Whittie's apartment complex and the sets of doubles at the intersection of Indiana and Hendricks County Line Road. I just wanted to go through that list with you guys. Yeah, a good portion of the area is R1, but that's our main thoroughfare through town, okay? It's about 30 to 40% school, business, doubles, apartments, and we think that this would be a really good use for this 2.1 acres on Indiana Street. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to.
Is the house that's currently there, is it getting demolished?
Probably not. We'll probably stay there and be on one of the lots. That's not a promise. But the current thought is that you couldn't recoup the loss of tearing a house down to put a double there.
Okay, so you're wanting to utilize the current driveway as your access point to get to the other 4 lots,
And
essentially.
widen. It's going to be a 2-car wide driveway in effect.
Any other questions? I take it you're gonna, this is a lot, this is a lot, and this is a lot?
Yeah, we haven't thought about it, but I would say there'd be a good chance there's going to be, just looking at it, okay, this is extremely preliminary, but common sense tells me that there may be 1 facing west and 2 facing north. It just looks like that's the best fit, but again, we are nowhere near that planning stage yet.
Okay. With that, I'll open it up. Does the public have any comments? Please step up and state your name. And hold comments to at least 5 minutes, please.
My name's Joanne Owen. I live at 16 Hadley Woodland, which is right across the street from Brian's property. Not knowing all the probables that are being put out, it's probable that the house will be demolished, probably. I don't like probably, so, because it doesn't give me any definite information. I like my quiet enjoyment in my property, and when you put doubles in and you bring people in, you lose that. Also, the church uses that back property during the summer for the youth group to play games. Kickball, I don't know what all, but they're back there in the summer playing. So that's something that the kids no longer have easy access to. So if the doubles were put back there, the kids would lose that. Anticipated construction, how long will it take? You know, if it's all approved, will it take a year, 2 years? That sounds like it's unknown too. And that's pretty much it. So, hence, I stand by my denial. I don't want to see it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Rob Halcomb. I live at 831 North Indiana Street, just on the other side of the church and stuff. And I have I've known Brian for 50 years. I have no problem with any of the construction he does and stuff. But I wasn't really sure it could be 4 lots. The gentleman here just said that they could put 10,000 square feet for a double on a lot. Well, a variance could be made to put 2 in each one of those lots. That meant now we're up to 6. 2 would be 4, 6, 8, 12 families in there, not counting the single family home. Would that be a correct statement?
All your questions.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Am I
ask us your
right?
Questions, and then we'll let
Am
him
I
have
right?
a chance.
That's okay. Yeah. I just want to know if I'm right.
Well, right now he's talking about 3 additional lots.
3 additional lots, and they could be possibly 6 doubles on those, correct?
It would be 3
Three
doubles.
doubles.
3 doubles.
6 apartments or 6 living areas.
Could it be changed?
3 units.
Could it be changed to 6? Because he doesn't have no plans yet for how many homes, and the gentleman just had spoke saying that there could be 10,000 square feet for each double, correct? There's those 3 lots make up 60,000 feet.
But I think
Tim, can you help us with this? If he divided it into 3 additional lots,
So right now, he's coming here for a reason, and
Right.
that's it.
That's it. So we
There's
can't.
no dividing of property or anything else right now.
I'm just asking if it's possible.
Okay, let me speak for 1 second more. When he does decide to divide that up, he's going to come back to this board, assuming you got notified of this meeting through the hallway.
Yes.
Okay, he's got to notify everybody again
Yeah.
when he comes back. So right now, this board can only really, in my opinion, and I believe the attorney agreed, we're going for a rezone and that's it right now. Because we don't really know what they're doing. And I understand what you're saying is it's a pig in a poke, so to speak, but you're going to get notified before anything else happens.
Right.
So, yes,
I mean,
theoretically, he could build a
his stuff's good, but, according to that new plan that you guys developed last month that signed up that 139 pages, correct? It says, and it goes right in there, it says, page 37, I believe, it will say that there's not a whole lot of, that the board shouldn't look at doubles and stuff like that within the town. They should go south, east, and west.
Comprehensive plan.
The comprehensive plan,
if he comes back, if we rezone it tonight,
yes.
and he comes back to us in 90 days and decides, this is how we want to plat it out. It's not going to be 3, it's going to be 4, we are taking this other house down.
Right.
That would have to be approved.
Okay.
Then he would have to tell us how many units would be on each plat.
Okay.
So, as Tim was explaining, tonight, all we can say is, yes, it can go R2, and that's the very beginning step. And then there's still steps that all of us and all of you would have a chance to interject at that time as well.
And also on that, ours is just a recommendation to the town board. They make the final decision on whether it actually changes on the zoning.
Okay. I mean, I have no problem with him building. I just want to know what's actually going to be built. And obviously that's not going to happen.
All he's given us is a basic, what their plans are.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, but it's just the first step, so.
So, yeah, so let me throw something in real quick. You guys are going to vote here in a minute or 2 or whatever it's going to take, right? And then it goes to the planning, like you said, the town council gets to vote on it. But it's not the next town council meeting, it's the next town council.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the second town council meeting from now. So it's the first one in
December.
which is when this will get voted on again, and he'll have to get up and give his little story, and you can get up and oppose it then too, because just because this board agrees to it, doesn't mean the town council will or will not. It's an advisory board, they advise.
And I don't have any idea what this comprehensive plan, how much you adhere to this thing, so I was just trying to find out, okay, is this an actual plan? We're not going to do these things? Because I have no problem with them building. The only thing I have a problem with is he's going to build 8 of them or whatever in there, But, this adds more traffic there. And the way this kind of worked, it'd be more aesthetically pleasing than the house that's across the street from me that you're very well aware of. That's one we tore down. I buy those up there.
Are there any more statements from the public? At this, Chip, something?
Well, I'm Brian Hopwood.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everybody's concerns. Lifelong resident of Mooresville, and I don't want to see a bunch of stuff coming in here and messing up things. And I'm a product of what we call the new edition. Those of you that are older know what the new edition is. And so our plans are, the wife and I, is number one, if I tear that house down, I bought it off the Richer family, and Harvey would turn over in his grave. I don't want to make him mad at me and him forever haunt me. We're just looking at options right now, and this is the first phase before I go any farther. And whatever we do, there's not going to be 8. At the most, if I do it, there's only going to be 2 duplexes on the place. And it's going to be landscaped, and it's going to be pleasantly pleasing to your subdivision and the ones across the street, with the exception of one. And so that's our plans, our thoughts right now, but we wanted to make sure we got through the first step up before we started investing wholeheartedly into it. And so that's where we stand. You have my word on that. That's where we stand right now tonight on what we're doing. That's just our train of thought.
All right, thank you. Do you have anything else? Were there any comments from the board? With that, I'll take a motion to give a favorable or not favorable recommendation, town board.
Motion for a favorable.
Motion by JD, second.
Second.
Second by Josh. All those in favor? Fantastic. Packmore 67.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name's David Gilman. Tonight, I'm representing E-Tank Equipment Rental. The property that we're looking to seek your approval on tonight has been known as Innovation Park 67, 46 acres on the north side of Packmore, east side of State Road 67. This is our 4th hearing on this property. We received your approval for the concept plan February 9th, preliminary plat April 13, our first final construction plan and plat of Lot 2 on 7/29. We submitted for the E-Tank Lot 1, 9/29. We've revised the plans to address all the TAC committee comments that we've received from Westler Engineering and Hillwater and the other reviewing agencies. Those plans were revised 10/23, and all of you have a copy of the most recent set of plans, as well as members in our audience. So again, Innovation Park 67, the lot we're asking for is lot number 1. It is about 15 acres. in the southeast corner of the 46 acres, again for E-Tank equipment rental. E-Tank will build a service and administrative building on the property, anywhere between 18 and 24,000 square feet. They have approved outdoor storage for their equipment, where there'll be vehicles for employees, customers, and their transfer vehicles. All that will be on paved lot as required by the ordinance. Part of our commitment on going into this, we are aware that this would lie within the Hill Water Wellhead Protection Area. With the introduction of the 5 new wells adjacent to this property, we went from a wellhead area of 5-year to 1 year. So we engaged Mendel Environmental Consultants to work with the town and Hill Water to follow the recommendations of Hill Water's wellhead protection plan that they have in place. Mendel has over 20 years' experience. They're classified as a technically qualified person, or TQP. That is a person that has to go through rigorous training and certification to be able to make the recommendations for development within wellhead protected areas. They do this and they review plans from private developers for several cities and counties. Most closely would be Marion County's Indianapolis. So our environmental consultants have prepared a report of the Hill Water Wellhead Protection Plan development criteria. You have a copy of that in front of you. This protection plan is very specific for E-Tank and their business. A copy of this report was shared with the TAC Review Committee. Neighborhood representatives that I know of, I submitted it to them by email, and I also provided them a hard copy this evening. Packmore has a copy of it. They also have an environmental consultant group, Augustus Mack, that I've been working with as late as today, going over the plan. And then I've been in contact as recently today with Herb Cook, General Manager of Hill Water Corporation. So my conversation with Mr. Cook today, just to bring you up to speed, Hill Water is submitting for IDEM approval for a new wellhead protection plan. The reason they're doing this is because the wells have changed. Their delineation of their Area 1, Area 5 changes. That's the primary reason they're submitting for a new wellhead protection plan. Every 5 years, private water suppliers have to update their plans with IDEM. Theirs isn't due till next year, but because this new delineation is required, they just went ahead and submitted for a whole new plan. But I was told by Herb, the development criteria for an Area 1, Area 5 is not changing. It's just the map that encompasses those areas is what's changing. We knew from the very beginning we would be in a wellhead Area 1. And basically what that means is any pollutant would have 1 year to get to the aquifer. We would have 1 year for a remedy solution to take care of such anything entering into the aquifer. So part of the wellhead protection plan, the building and the site has several conditions. Those conditions relate to its day-to-day operations, which would include secondary containment areas. So if you have a container that has certain amount of runoff or wash water or some type of waste, it has to be contained with the secondary containment area of 110%. So in case it did breach the original container, the second containment still contains it, so it's not going to enter into a flow, the outside, the drain, or through the soil. Very specific signage is posted for our employees, instructing them how to take care of any type of spills, protocol that they need to do, monitoring, reporting, inspections on a day-to-day basis. Any waste has to be put in a container that has certain specifications. For instance, any waste that's going to be picked up by an outside provider has to be spill-proof, so it can't have any weep holes in it. Outside activity, virtually it basically keeps everything that E-Tank will do on their day-to-day business, either receiving their equipment back or shipping their equipment to a lessor, needs to be done inside the building, because that's where the drains and everything are there provided to contain any runoff, collect it, store it, have it off-site, and recycled. Other things include a Aqua Swirl. It's just a common brand name, but it's a very sophisticated filtering system for all stormwater. So there will be certain inlets, as you'll see in the site plan, around the base of the building that takes the runoff from the building. They'll collect an inlet, a pipe will run it underneath the gravel into a dry detention basin. When that basin fills up and before it goes into White Lick Creek, it runs through this large filter, and just think of it like a filter in a swimming pool. It's got a combination of fabric filters and metal and plastic filters with screens that filter out oils, particulates, solids, and then E-Tank and/or the developer will have an obligation, probably once a year, go out, pop the lid off, clean it out, make sure it's not clogged and working properly. And then also in the report, there's pretty straightforward reporting requirements. In the case of a spill, what do you do? Who do you notify? And then there are detailed construction requirements, as I mentioned before, on their building and their site to provide a safe plumbing system and drainage system. And then finally, the last part of the wellhead protection plan specific to E-Tank is Mendel and Associates has an agreement with whoever they provide the report for, in this case E-Tank, to be able to come on site at any time, do an inspection to make sure E-Tank is complying with everything that they spelled out in the report. And when you go under contract with them, that's one of the agreements that you have to agree to, sort of a check and balance. So we've gone through a lot of the questions about E-Tank, their use, their day-to-day operations, how they function. You've blessed us with the concept plan approval, and you've blessed us with a preliminary plat. Lot 2, CTC is ready to construct their first two buildings, a 20,000 and a 12,000 square foot. E-Tank will build their building. We're anticipating construction to really get started in spring of 2024 and obviously go throughout the year, and hopefully we'll build out very quickly. Again, all the site plans, construction plans have been reviewed by your departments. All comments have been addressed. You all have copies of everything, the latest and greatest plans. I've made a commitment that I told both Packmore and Hill Water that I would share tonight. Because Hill Water is still waiting on their IDEM approval, we would not obviously be able to get a building permit until that plan was approved through IDEM and blessed by Hill Water, so our plan is in compliance with their IDEM approval. And I told Herb I would share that with this board. And then with Packmore, I told them that we would continue to be transparent. The only thing they've done is their engineer, environmentalist engineer, looked at our engineer's report for the wellhead protection plan. The only thing he wanted me to commit to is dust control. Should we get, a really dry summer with the gravel area that we have, we did talk about this outside before the hearing, and there are a number of ways we can do that, but we will agree to add dust control in as part of our agreement with the development and this approval. Either we could have a water truck, or we could use certain types of gravel that is kind of washed before you put it down, or a combination of both. So those are the two outside conversations I had that I wanted to make sure that it was made note of in this hearing tonight. And then I'm happy to answer questions that board members or members of the audience may have for me.
Okay. You say you've got a 1-year plan to alleviate any problems from a spill or whatever. Who does the inspection, and what is that inspection? Does that mean drilling down in the dirt to find out if there's any contamination, and who's responsible for that?
So let's say there happened to be a spill, Hill Water would be notified, IDEM would be notified. They would determine how to test, the results of those tests, the method that needs to be taken to clean it up, who's responsible to clean it up, and how much time you have to clean it up. And then they pass down those findings to the responsible party for the spill.
How often, you do that test once a year?
Now, that was a very good question. Somebody else asked me that earlier. When I went on to the IDEM site to review Hill Water's license for, and make sure that their wellhead protection plan is up for renewal in a year, they do have to provide testing. They test once a year, and they have a threshold. So as long as and they're allowed a certain amount of contaminants and particulates in their water, in their testing. But if it doesn't go over, they can just file it away as being tested. Only if it goes over a certain threshold is when they need to notify IDEM. Hey, we have a situation that may require additional testing. So if they ever get audited, they have all their test results, annual test results documented, but they really only have to report it if there is a contaminant that is above a threshold that IDEM has set in place.
Any other questions from the board?
So after the first year, they'll continue testing it?
I don't want to get outside my expertise. That's Mendel and Hill Water and IDEM's responsibility to determine how it needs to be cleaned up and monitored going after that. But yeah, a good example might be, let's say there happened to be a spill and there was a need for a cleanup. A common remedy is to put in a test well and monitor and test that just to make sure that it doesn't come back or it's all cleaned up. Those are common remedies, test wells. Matter of fact, I think Hill Water has test wells out there right now, testing the water that they plan on using as a supply for their customers. Monitoring it over a certain period of time to make sure that, even the seasonal changes doesn't fluctuate something that they didn't know about. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Tammy? At this time, we'll open it up to the floor. If you have any questions, please come up, state your name and address.
My name's Jeff Lovelace, live at 2799 Eastwood Side Drive. It's in the addition that would be just north of this warehouse district. I had the opportunity, my wife and Mr. Gilman have emailed back and forth, so we actually got the documents that you got tonight, and we went through them, had a couple of concerns, and actually even before the meeting we had a chance to talk in the hallway. So this is something I want to get on the record, not only for our interactions with E-Tank, but for all the places that would go into that warehouse district. The first one deals with the notification if there is a spill, not just for E-Tank, but any of these warehouses. And if you look on what's the 5th page of this document, but it says page 3 at the top because there's a 2-page kind of introduction. But at page 3 at the top, it says Wellhead Protection Plan. And under number 9, it's got a section that says Spill Reporting Requirement. So if there is a spill that goes above the threshold levels that Mr. Gilman referred to, after that is found, they have 2 hours to report it to the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. And they also have to report this to Hill Water Corporation within 24 hours. Now, we're not, the people of our addition, we're not on Hill Water, we're on wells. So my question is, when do we get notified? If you go back further in this documentation to the section 3, which says attachment number 3, spill response plan guidance. And if you turn to that next page, it's got a section here that says spill isolation communication to nearby residents and businesses. But it doesn't give a timeline. And since we don't have any filter systems like Hill Water would have, we need to know if there's a spill in a very quick and timely manner. Not just for E-Tank, but for all of these businesses that are going in there. So up a little bit further, it's got emergency contact numbers, and it's got like the Morgan County Emergency Management, Morgan County Health Department. Well, Hill Water Corporation would know within 24 hours, but we're not customers of theirs, so they're probably not going to notify us. So my question is, who's going to notify us? Who's responsible for that? And what is the timeline? How many hours or days or what? But we need to know quick because we're drinking right out of that aquifer with our wells. So that's a big concern, not only for E-Tank, but for any group that goes in there. So that's my first point. The second point is if there is a spill and our wells would be contaminated, again, any group that's in there, who's responsible for providing us with clean and water? Obviously, this is a health concern. Obviously, it concerns property values. This plan that I read through is a very solid plan. I think they've done a good job with it. Those are the two things that I'm with that do need to be addressed. Because, if we're out, we're not on any water right now, and if it's contaminated, what do we do? What do we do for what do we do for so that the Planning Commission would see into those items and help us get additional information. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And just one last point. Like I said, we had the chance to talk out there, and the four gentlemen we got to talk to gave us a lot of good information. I've really appreciated it. Mr. Gilman's been really upfront, sending us emails. I don't know the gentleman's name here at the end, but he pointed out, we're in a fortunate situation because we are close to Hill Water Corporation. He pointed that out at the last meeting, and we're a smaller group, and we definitely need to be included in the loop. So,
Ashley, I have a question on what he's discussing real quick. I know that any conversations that E-Tank, anybody in that park area have with Hill Water and with IDEM, they bring that information to us so that we have it and we have peace of mind when we vote on things, but we also can't act on them. I mean, those are agreements between those three parties. Would we direct him to get in touch with IDEM? I mean, the town wouldn't be notified if anything happened because we're not in corporation with Hill Water and with E-Tank. So I would imagine that you might need to actually contact IDEM. I mean, the town of Mooresville is not on this list. Now, granted, I'm sure somebody's going to get word to us somewhere, somehow. We're going to know. But I wouldn't know who you would need to discuss how do we get on the call list.
I believe, if you want to find out information from IDEM, you can contact them.
Okay. So the Planning Commission doesn't get involved in that decision?
We cannot.
We cannot.
That is an agreement between that property, Hill Water, and IDEM. The town of Mooresville, we don't even provide water. I mean, you have Indiana American, you have Hill. The town of Mooresville stays out of the water business
And
altogether.
unfortunately, because you're not a customer of either one of those, they're not required to tell you anything. And that stinks, and that's why you have to reach out.
And that's exactly my point.
And so, unfortunately, like our attorney said, you're going to have to reach out to them to get that info.
So out of that list of people who are notified, I'm being told that IDEM's the one And like the Morgan County Health Department, they're not,
Now, if you wanted to reach out to E-Tank, and I'm not suggesting that you guys have a conversation off the record or what have you, I don't even know if they would want to entertain that. But if you have one person that's in your neighborhood, like your HOA president, and I'm not saying you guys have an HOA, that can be like
Contact person.
contact number 5, we contact IDEM, we contact Hillwater, we contact this person, and then we call this person, and then he does the phone tree. That's up to you guys, but the town of Mooresville
Yeah,
cannot
we don't have
oversee
anything to do
that.
with that.
all right, I guess that's something we could,
Sorry.
I'll respond.
Yeah, you'll respond in a minute. Are there any other questions? Please come up to the microphone. State your name and address, please.
My name is Jim Moon. I live at 10791 North Rainbow Lane, and that is about 5 houses up from this piece of property that you're wanting to let E-Tank build on. I walk my dog up and down the railroad tracks. And this spring, when I was walking down the railroad tracks to the south end of the field, I saw pink water down there on the ground. So I stopped to look to see what was going on. It was coming out of the containment pond, which is not Packmore, but the new name they have now.
Lambia.
So I called them up and went over and talked to them. Well, the president wasn't in town, but told the lady what the deal was. They said they'd check on it. Tim called me at a later date, and the story I got was the pond was turning over. Well, that's not the way a pond turns over. And that pond stayed pink for a couple months into the summer. And so when it reaches a certain depth, it leaches out into that field. Now, I don't know since you folks bought the property if you know it, but it runs right down along the railroad tracks. It has leached underneath the railroad bed, and it is going down into Jack and Carolyn Ward's farm field, which is right adjacent to Whitelet Creek. Now, a containment pond, or whatever they're wanting to put in down there for these spills and all this stuff, and I stated the first time at the first meeting, I think the Planning Commission is going the wrong way to even consider this. Because if you have a spill of any kind that gets out of hand, it's going down there in the creek. And like Jeff and our neighborhood is concerned about, we're concerned about our wells. So now you're telling us tonight that, well, what they found out in Mooresville is not going to be involved in it because they're not in the water business. And so here we are over there, and if they do have the spill and it does leach out, it does contaminate, we're just out there on cloud 9 someplace till we find out about it, however, whatever. But I want to make it known tonight that there is a problem back there in the southeast corner of this piece of property they're wanting to build on. And it's there right now, and it's evident. And if anybody wants to come by, I'm retired, I'll be glad to take you down there and show it to you. Thank you.
Anybody else? At this time, I'll close the public comment. Tim, can you address the pink?
IDEM was notified, we were notified. Packmore, like Mr. Gilman said, Packmore has a independent engineering firm that tests the outgoing water. I don't want to say once a quarter, but often, I don't know how often. Never called in to look at this substance, so to speak. The pond was purple, lavender actually, and it was running across the field, just like Mr. Kuhn said. It was all tested, and everything we got back, of course, it's way above us, right? It's IDEM and the independent engineers and all that, and they all said it was natural vegetation turnover. That's what I've been told.
That was from IDEM?
I've never seen lavender, like Mr. Moon, but it was all checked out by them and it'd be okay.
Rest of the comments?
conversation we had about if there is a spill cleanup, my understanding is the Plan Commission would have no say-so in how that gets cleaned up, who gets notified. I explained to them that would be strictly with IDEM, the Clean Water Act. There's a certain set of rules. Hill Water complies with those rules. So that's where I directed them, to Hill Water and IDEM, to see if something were to happen, when would they get notified and how they would get notified. So that's pretty much the same recommendation that I provided. As far as the pink lavender substance, ironically, on my way into TAC meeting that morning, the same thing happened in Florida, and it was all over the WIBC News. It was an algae, and it was that color because the conditions were right, where there was a lot of water and heat and warm air that caused it to turn pink, and that's what surprised everybody, but it wasn't just necessarily here in Mooresville. There were many, many other places that called in that same cool color of goo. But again, we want to continue being good neighbors. All these people have my contact information. We certainly will continue to work through Hill Water for the plan. We'll work through the town to make sure that you all are kept informed of any changes. And we hope to start construction in the spring.
Is it possible for E-Tank to have a couple of people's numbers to notify them if there's a spill? Or if there's a problem?
Can we ask that?
I'm just asking if it's a possibility.
Again, I think Tammy, that's something that they have to discuss. I don't think we have anything to do with that.
Kind of want to put sort of a lawyer hat on. The only thing I would advise my client E-Tank to be cautious of is if for some reason they weren't notified, or if phone numbers change, people move, if that would subject them to not notifying something that they agreed to. So, again, I would prefer that be left up to IDEM and Hill Water. And here's how, just because you're not a customer of Hill Water doesn't mean you don't have stake in the game. You're in the aquifer. Your wells depend on the aquifer. So if there's something in the aquifer that impacts Hill Water, it'll impact you, and IDEM will have a policy or a process of whoever's in that watershed or in that aquifer. If something needs to be notified, then they're the ones that would take responsibility to see who and how that notification is given.
Any other questions from the board? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the plans before us.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by JD. Is there a second? Second by Tammy. All those in favor? Thank you. Permits and inspections.
How many inspections, I'm sorry? 114?
Motion to adjourn.
Do any of the members on the board have any comments or questions, concerns?
We will meet in December, folks. Plan accordingly.
Okay. If so, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you.
Anybody want to give up a set of plans to?
Yeah, here you go.
You can have it.